Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the Just One More Level podcast. I am your co-host Christian,
And I am your co-host, John.
and this week we played a little bit of Devil May Cry 2, DMC2 on the PS2. It's
Yep,
a video game that
it is.
exists. We both played Devil May Cry. John, did you ever finish the first Devil May Cry game?
No, I've never finished the first Devil May Cry. I got stuck at, I believe, the first boss,
Okay.
big
Okay.
spider guy in a chapel.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that gentleman is quite a guy, and he got me stuck nice and well. So I never made it past that, and I have not had the opportunity to revisit the first game yet, but I did play this one
Okay.
for the podcast. I played mine
See,
on the PlayStation 4.
oh the
With
HD remaster or no, you used PlayStation Now, didn't you?
yes, I
The
used
or the new iteration of PlayStation Now, whatever it's called.
right. It's PlayStation Plus. It's all encompassing now.
And I guess that
PlayStation
one would
Plus,
probably only be on PlayStation Plus Premium though, right? The higher tier, I think,
maybe
because the
it's
retro
a
games I think are
PS3
only.
streaming game.
Oh, it's a PS3 one. Okay, so
Yes.
that might be PS or that might be the middle tier. I don't know. The whole thing's a little bit confused. They should have done two tiers, in my opinion,
Yeah.
is what they should have done. Just have like a premium tier that
And a
includes
big
like all
tier.
the extra stuff, and then the basic tier where it just has like the PS4 and 5 games or something like that. I think it would have been
Right.
a lot easier to follow that way. Anyways, I did finish DMC one. Did
Nice.
on stream actually. The footage may be up on YouTube. I can't remember if I've uploaded that yet or not. And
Nice.
DMC2 though, it's interesting. One of the viewers, shout out to Nate, told me that he believes, I did not verify this, but he believes that the director of the first game didn't
Okay.
really have a whole lot to do with DMC2, Devil May
Okay.
Cry 2. And I can see it, honestly, because the game, while, I mean, you still have Dante,
Yeah.
obviously.
Okay.
So there's that. But other
Right.
than that, it's Gothic, it's Dante, everything else is basically different.
Yeah, it's the environment is a little strange, and I felt the camera kind of limiting in this one,
Oh
which is
my god.
weird to
Yes.
say because you can explore, I feel, a little bit more than in the first game in terms of
Spale.
in terms of scale in the
Scale.
first level.
Yes.
Okay, if you when you're going through the first level, okay, you have like kind of a city to explore at first,
Hmm.
right? Instead of just the first floor of a castle or that first room that I got stuck in, the beginner's trap room.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I got stuck in that room. I had a city to explore this time, right? So not as bad. I can explore the moves a little bit better. I can collect things. I can fight things. The enemies are cool. You got skeletons and cages, but I kept finding myself saying, "Man, I wish I could just pan the camera a little. Just a little.
Yes.
Just like a little bit left or right maybe." Like so I wish it wasn't so fixed because this is a fixed camera-esque. It is fixed
Game.
camera, but it's yeah.
Yes.
And
I
it's similar to
eh,
God of War, even though this predates it, or at least the
yeah.
first Devil May
Yeah.
Cry
I,
predates
I
God of
think this
War.
one does too, I believe. But yeah, no,
Okay.
I agree 100%. I am if you've watched the podcast, watch me on stream, I am a proponent for fixed camera angle games. I
Yeah.
generally think that they, when done well, it's better than having full control of the camera in most situations. For instance, the original God of War games. There's very
Right.
few times in the original God of War games where I'm like, man, I really wish I could turn the camera right now. Right, and that
Right.
also let them do things that otherwise they wouldn't have been able to accomplish graphically, for God of War. And
Right.
and I also think it leads to better level design because you're able to show the player exactly what you want them to see at any given point. I think there's a lot of good reasons to have fixed camera angle games. But this
Right.
game feels like it was designed to have a normal 3D camera,
It kind of
not a
does.
fixed
Yeah.
camera angle. That's the level design is interesting in its layout. There's some changes as you go through the game, right? There's some varying environments instead of you just exploring the castle like in the first one. You go through
Right.
like this rundown gothic thing, and then you go through like a couple buildings. You have like a city that you explore and stuff like that in this game.
Right.
So I appreciate the varying environments,
Mm-hmm.
but actually exploring them is kind of a pain in the ass because the way they hide things behind the camera is just boggling to my mind. Like I
Yeah.
remember one section. I actually played a little bit of Disc 2. This is a 2 disc game. Just to see
Okay.
if there was any real difference other than playing another character and having a different story. Because of that, there's really not. The two characters play exactly the same. Anyways,
Okay.
and you had to find so many orbs to leave the first area. That's fine. You had to do that in the beginning of DMC 1 as well.
Right.
So I'm looking around for these orbs and things like that, and I'm having a hard time finding them. And then I see one
Okay.
off in the distance, so I go to get it, and as soon as I get like, I don't know, maybe 12 yards from it or something, I don't know, the camera
Okay.
pans in such a way that now it's invisible. It is behind a building. You can no longer see that red orb. So I just had to
Wow.
run around in circles to try and pick up this stupid red orb. Whereas if the camera had been panned in a different way, or if I had control of the camera, I could have just turned it and saw the damn thing. Like, why
Mhm.
would you lay out your level like that? You know exactly what the player can see at any time. Why hide these items that they need from view? I could get it if it was some, like, cool weapon or upgrade or something like that. But no, it's just a red orb, man. Like, it's not even like some big secret or something like that. It doesn't unlock any cool thing. It's
Right.
just a red orb.
Yeah.
Why
And it's
hide it?
frustrating
I don't.
because that provides a barrier from completing the level,
Yes, yeah,
even
100%.
though
Yeah.
it's hidden. Yeah, and that's something that I think they did really well in Stray, which is what we played last week. Which,
Hmm.
if you haven't watched that on Twitch, uh, check it out. No,
Yeah, I mean, the VOD's
so
probably gonna be gone soon if it's not already. But it'll be
it's there
uploaded to
forever.
YouTube and stuff eventually. So yeah.
Yeah, eventually. Anyway, so Stray, okay? The camera, like, when it goes through objects, they disappear, or at least they reduce in opacity, right?
Right.
So that you can kind of see around or through them, depending on how close you are to the object. I think more games should have something similar. Maybe not completely reduce the opacity, but at least design them so you don't get stuck behind things.
Yeah.
Like design your level. Don't put like a big object in the way of your level because you should play test it.
Right.
And then
Well, yeah, but like in this game, that shouldn't be a problem because
right.
it's a fixed camera angle at any
Uh-huh.
time. So that
Right.
should never be a problem. They should just, like you said, play test the damn game, see that, oh,
Right.
this camera angle doesn't actually make much sense here. Why don't we
Right.
shift it to be this over here
Right.
instead or something like that? But they didn't. Like
Mhm.
the game is just filled with little annoyances like that. And another thing about the camera, before I forget, this
Mm.
game seems to love their flying enemies. I seeing them on screen right now is what's making me think of it. Loves
Okay.
them. And that's fine.
Okay.
I don't inherently hate flying enemies as long as it works well in the game. But since
Sure.
the camera angle is fixed in this
Mhm.
game and you have enemies flying up in the air, it is literally impossible to see them half the
Yes.
time. You just have to hold down the shoot button on your gun and
Right.
hope that they all die soon or don't like come crashing down at you and murder you or something like that because you can't see them. There's no
Right.
way for you to see them. You could jump up in the air and try to see them that way, but you're gonna
Run
fall
right into
back
them.
down, or that, yeah. You
Yeah.
do get the ability to fly relatively early in the game, but that uses up your devil meter, demon meter, whatever the hell you want to call it. So that's only a temporary fix. It's not like a thing that you can do indefinitely or anything like that. So it's just
Gotcha.
like, I love fixed camera angle games. This game should not have been one.
Right.
This game should have just had a camera that you control like normal. Which
Yeah.
pains me to say, but that's honestly how it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that really is the biggest issue. Other than that, I mean, I love the style. It's Devil May Cry, so moving Dante, like actually moving him around
Oh,
the environment,
yeah, yeah,
isn't a pain. It's
no.
it's nice and fluid and
Hmm.
responsive and all that kind of fun stuff. Um,
You get
I
the
don't
double jump
really
right from the get go, which I really appreciate.
right,
And you have some like wall running stuff that you can do this time around, which is
right,
also pretty nice. The
right,
movement, fluid, great. 9 times out of 10, it just does what you want it to do. It's really
right.
nice. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I love Dante's style, of course. As always, his dual wielding pistols, and I'm sure you get a lot more weapons later in the game. You got a sword. You're having a lot of fun jumping over rooftops and buildings and stuff. I don't mind that in the game. That's pretty cool, being able to
Hmm.
explore a bigger space. But I did feel that the art was a little muddled. I don't know. I
Yes.
feel like there was too much of one color going on at
Yeah.
one time.
I
They
agree
should have
with you
broken
there.
it up a bit more.
Yeah. I think
or
that
made
has
the scene
something to
darker.
do with like the locale that they picked, but
Yeah,
I mean, they could have still added like some, I don't know, splashes of green or something in there, right? To,
exactly.
to
Yeah,
to cut up the monotony of browns and grays that
or
just coat everything.
just make it nighttime and put lamps everywhere,
Oh,
right?
sure, sure,
So you have
yeah,
that dark brown aesthetic, but now you have like the dark you have the dark background, you have the lamps to like light things up, so you get
right.
splashes of lights, which helps the color, I don't know.
Also fits
Different
the
things
the
like that.
gothic theme too at that
Right,
point, which
exactly.
would make sense because I mean it's Dante, it's obviously gothic inspired, so yeah,
Right.
having everything be dark and a little dreary, it just makes sense as well.
Yeah, it
So
does.
how
Even
did you
my
feel? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
even
ahead and
my
finish
wife
your point.
I was just gonna say even my wife said this game reminds her of Castlevania, and
Right. Yeah.
please let me explain. Not only do we
Coming.
have a long running joke where I
Yes.
say things look like Castlevania, but
Every game.
she specifically said this reminded her of Castlevania Symphony of the Night because Dante reminds her of Alucard, the character from that game, because he moves in a similar way. He has very like dramatic, flowy, swishy movements, and he has white hair and he kind of looks anime inspired. There's some similarities there. So um that's what she said, and then of course there's the Gothic architecture and stuff like that. That's
Right.
why it
Yeah.
reminded her specifically.
Apparently that's kind of a trope, Dante's style and attitude that he has. I
Uh-huh.
forget the actual word that they used to describe, but I was looking up the differences of like disc 1 and disc 2, and people were saying that like they're just kind of, they don't really vibe with Dante's character. He's too Japanese. I don't remember the word, Bishi boy or something. I don't remember the word that they use. I don't 100% know
Okay.
what it means,
Oh,
but I
good.
took it to mean something like kind of, stoic, not very, doesn't really show their emotions, a
Okay.
very, gothic inspired, emo esque, quote unquote badass sort of thing. So I could kind of
Yeah.
see that same thing being applied to Alucard as well.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if he is a Japanese Bishi boy or whatever the hell the word was. I really can't
He
remember.
is in the
But
show,
yeah,
on Netflix, so he has that going for him. But I mean, his character in the game is pretty similar to the one in the show,
yeah.
because he actually does have speaking parts and cutscenes and different things like that. So,
How did you
um,
feel about the combat in Devil May Cry 2 compared to Devil May Cry 1?
Uh, I liked it well enough. It wasn't too bad. I mean, the only thing that I really didn't care for was I didn't feel like I was getting better at the combos and the combat and stuff like I would in the first game or in God of War.
Right.
Um, like over and over, it just kept telling me that my combos were like, meh,
I think for
or
me
wouldn't say
that kind of
anything at
comes
all, and I
down
was like,
to,
yeah,
I noticed that as well in my playthrough. That
yeah,
it didn't seem to pop up nearly as much. But I wonder if that kind of comes down to, in the first game you have a sense of progression, right? Because you're unlocking new abilities and things like that. In
yeah,
this one, you can upgrade your weapons, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't really change a whole lot about how combat works. That
right,
coupled with the more open areas, worse camera, and I think they expect you to make more heavy use of the guns in this game than they did with the first. All those things
yeah,
together, I would say, kind of. I don't want to say make the combat worse because the control scheme is so much better in this one than in the
exactly.
first one.
Yes, it is
That like it
easier.
kind of and it is easier as well. Yes,
Right.
that it kind of balances it out, but they had the opportunity to make like to fix all of the problems from the first one and make it that much better. And
And they
instead, they
just
took
made
like
it
two
weird.
steps forward and two steps back. Like, yeah, not
Yeah.
even two steps forward and one step back. It was like an equal, they fucked up this much, but made this much better kind of
Sort of
deal. That's how
diagonal
I
step.
felt with it. Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or a sideways step. Um,
It's
yeah,
like
which is
it's better, but it's so much worse. What did you
yeah,
do? Like
yeah. And it's
like
not
what
even
it
like the combat itself that made it so much worse, other than, like you said, the combos don't feel as good pulling off, right? Like you don't have the things
exactly,
popping up
yeah.
and exclaiming to you, wow, amazing, excellent, or you're crap
Right.
and whatnot. Like that stuff doesn't pop up nearly as much, which doesn't feel as good. But
Right.
the
Yeah.
camera and the open space and just, I don't know, the guns never felt that satisfying to me in Devil May Cry. and I'm finding myself using the guns a lot more in this one,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
just kind of sad, honestly.
Well, I love the guns when it comes to like the anime. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity. It's not that
I
popular from
haven't
what I
watched
gather.
it. No.
But my friend showed it to me and I loved it. The Devil May Cry anime I thought was fantastic.
I
It was a
love
ton
the
of fun.
idea, right?
Yeah.
Like a half demon, demon slayer that uses his two trusty sidearms or whatever. Like, it sounds
Right.
like a cool idea, but in practice playing it, they just don't feel very punchy, right? It's not like Doom, wherever you run up to something, you shoot it,
Right.
and it either makes them blow up into millions of pieces, or they,
Right.
like, get knocked back and stunned and whatnot with this big chunk of recoil that this, big buff dude is handling this gun, yet
Right.
even he's affected by it. Like, it doesn't have
Right.
any of that chunkiness, just that satisfaction of this is a
Sure. Yeah.
powerful weapon. You
Yeah.
don't get that. You get that with the swords in Devil May
Yeah.
Cry, I feel like, which is why I find
I have
myself
weight.
liking using it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Whereas the guns are just missing all of that. Yet again, I feel like I have to use the guns a lot more, like the game was designed for it, and it's just the less satisfying way to play most of the time.
Right.
So it's kind of, again, sideways
No,
step.
I got you.
They fixed
Yeah.
problems, but they made other things so much worse.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit weird,
Hmm.
but I enjoyed it for the most part. I mean, I suppose we can kind of wrap things up here, I guess. Christian, I don't have much more to say about Devil May Cry 2 unless you have
I
some
actually have a
fun
little bit more.
facts.
Yeah, I have a
Of
little bit
course.
more.
Go for it.
Because I played a little bit more than you, I believe. I played
Okay. Yeah.
about 2 hours and then a little bit in the second disc,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the after you get out of like the beginning areas, things start to get a little bit weird and a little bit monotonous at the same time. Right, because
Okay.
you get out of this town that you're in, you make your way eventually into the city, and the change of scenery was nice, but the levels don't really feel that much different, right? It feels like
Okay.
more of the same, just with a different coat of paint on it, which is a little bit upsetting.
Okay.
And then to make matters worse, the enemies get weird too. Like, you come across a demonic tank and a demonic helicopter and things like that,
Oh,
and it's just like,
well.
it's not like, in the first Devil May Cry game, yeah, you only had the castle to explore, and you ended up exploring
Right.
the same areas a couple times, but things were changing. There was a lot of things that you could break and interact with in the levels. It was visually
Right.
interesting. In this
Mhm.
one, right, you have the initial, wow, this is a nice large open space, I can jump around and have fun, and then you get to the next level, and it's like, okay, this is the last level, but a little bit different. And then you get to the next one, it's like, okay, this is the same level again, and then it just repeats over and over again. There's
Okay.
very little new content as you go on, or new feeling content, right? Technically things are different, but they all feel the same, and it's the same with the second character. I only played about a half hour of the second character, but she plays exactly like Dante plays. Instead of guns, she has throwing knives, but the throwing
Wow.
knives work exactly the same. She can double
Oh,
jump. She has the dodge roll. Instead of dodge rolling, she does like backflips, but it's the same damn dodge roll. She uses
right.
swords. Now her swords, instead of feeling chunky, she's more of like a fast character, right? Like monk type person. Think like a monk fighter, but with two short swords, essentially. Something like that. It's kind of what she looks like.
Okay.
She can also go into her own demon slash devil form. The
Mhm.
first power up that you get for her demon slash devil form is the ability to fly, the same as Dante. It's like you're playing the same damn game again, just in a
Mm.
slightly different order and a slightly different story. It's like,
Yeah.
why? What was the
Yeah.
point, man?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know, maybe because Resident Evil did it, so like
I
we
guess,
just did
but
it
like with Resident Evil, at least a
or
large
like
part of that game with Resident Evil is puzzle solving, right?
right.
And with your two different characters,
And
hopefully
story.
not always, well, yeah, and story, and apparently the story is different between one and disc 1 and disc 2 of this game. But anyways, at least the puzzles would end up being a little bit different in the good, like Resident Evil 2. In Resident Evil 1, it's the same damn game,
Yeah, it is.
essentially, but in Resident Evil 2, it had a much better second playthrough mode where the puzzles were a little bit different, the story was a little bit more different, etc.
Right.
Still very similar, but I don't know. Resident Evil, I didn't get tired of it nearly as quickly as I am Devil May Cry 2. The whole experience is just becoming a little bit monotonous, which is upsetting because, again, when I was first dropped into the game, I was like, this combat feels really good. The control changes that they did is really good. The game
Right.
feels good, and then all of these little problems start popping up that just kind of beats it down, and then to top it off, you get bored, like, which
Yeah.
is kind of,
You don't want
yeah,
that.
no,
Not when you're
no.
playing a game.
Oh, music, real quick though, the music,
Yeah.
excellent,
Oh yeah.
excellent. They did a great job with the music. It's really
Punchy.
good. Yes,
2000s.
sounds great. Honestly, it's
Punk.
really really good. What?
I said, like we were talking about in stream. Sorry,
Oh,
not
you
for
said
the
pop punk.
pop
Okay,
punk.
I did.
Yeah.
I just didn't hear what you said, so I was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. But that's I think all I have to say about DMC2. It's
Okay.
it's a worse version of the first game. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
unfortunately, I am looking forward to DMC3 though. I've heard good things.
Mhm.
I would like to see them change things, and I've seen people play DMC 4 and 5, as well as the kind of reboot spin-off type deal that they did in the middle.
Yeah, Devil May Cry.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and they all seem fun. I mean, they seem like
Yeah.
they get better after maybe the third one. Because this one was I don't feel was an improvement. I
No. No, me neither,
feel like
sadly.
yeah. Yeah. So, but maybe some hidden gems later on in the game. Should we finish playing it? Maybe let us know. Let us know what you think. Anyway, thank you everybody.
How do you
Oh,
feel though, Jonathan?
oh. No, I was just gonna.
You can't.
No, you don't need to see how. You don't need to hear how I feel.
How
Uh,
do you feel about the
Christian, I
game?
would I would play just one more level of Devil May Cry.
Okay.
Two.
Would not if it weren't for the fact that I want to play the rest of the series.
That's fair. I think I
I
agree.
yeah.
Yes, I think
I
if this were just right out of the gate, and I
yeah.
just played this game for the fun of it, and I wanted to keep playing it, I don't think I would. No, I think
Yeah.
it kind of drags. The pace is not as quick as the first game. It doesn't really hold your attention that well. But yes,
Mhm.
like you said, because I want to play the rest of the series, I think maybe I would play just one more level.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly how I feel.
yeah,
I will end up finishing it, whether it's on or off stream, I don't know. But it's more or less because I like the first game and I think I'll like the rest of the games more so
right,
than I really want to play more of this one specifically. So,
right,
and I am a little bit interested in the story. I will admit that. Like I do want to know more about what's going on in this world. So
right,
there is
yeah.
that, I guess. But
It's
anyways,
it's a
now
little bit
though,
interesting. Yeah.
you were saying, Jonathan.
Yes. So anyway, as I was saying, I'm sorry I jumped the gun a little bit, completely skipped over the whole gimmick of our show. Anyway, if thank you everybody so much
If
for
thank you.
watching.
Yep.
If thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you everybody so much for watching and listening and supporting us. You don't have to, but you do, and we appreciate it. Christian, what else should they be doing?
What else should they be doing? I mean, you should be
Yeah.
kind to each other. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, really. Just be decent people. That's all you
Yeah.
got to do. But
Hmm.
anyways, guys, thank you again for joining us. We'll be back
Yeah.
next week for maybe, I don't know yet, actually.
Yeah.
Either next week or the week after. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But check us out on YouTube, do all those things, and thanks for being here. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye bye.